the Denver Broncos have two quarterbacks. This offseason, they traded for NFL veteran, a former Super Bowl MVP quarterback, Joe Flacco. They traded for him. They also drafted a quarterback in the second round of the NFL draft, Drew Lock, the quarterback out of Missouri. Now, for context, Joe Flacco is 34 years old. He's entering his 12th season in the NFL. He's been around a long time. Now, Drew Lock, he's 22. He's a rookie. And recently, Joe Flacco was quoted saying that it's not my job to mentor Drew Lock. He said, my job, he goes on, he says, my job is to go win football games. And the media freaked out. People got after him. He's selfish. He's awful. All kinds of very negative words were used about this quote and used about Joe Flacco. And he continued. He said something else. He said, I admit, by the way, this is me speaking. I admit this is like a bad look for Joe Flacco. It's not the soundbite people chose to take out of context, frankly, made him look really bad. I get it. I understand why, if you look at just one piece of what he said, it looks really bad. But this is what I think the major problem in the media is right now. People take a soundbite and run with it for days rather than digging deeper and saying, what's the meaning behind this? What's he really saying? What's the attitude? And what's the full quote? He goes on to say something else. He says, look, I have so many things to worry about. I'm trying to go out and play the best football of my life. It makes sense to me, right? You got to understand, Joe Flacco just moved to a new city, got a new offense to learn, a new franchise to be a part of. And I understand the guy's like, look, my job is not to coach a young guy. My job is to get myself worried so we can win games. And Drew Lock responded to this. The young quarterback who was referred to by Joe Flacco says, Drew Lock said this. Drew Lock said, I feel like if he'd said the opposite thing, he would have been criticized for not putting winning football games as his number one priority. I love that. He's really pointing out the double standard of the media. People, if you want to criticize Joe Flacco, pick a side and say whatever the hell you want. That's what people do. And that's, frankly, you take a soundbite and you be critical of it either way. It doesn't matter. And so I really think that this story was massively overblown. I think that the way people criticized Joe Flacco was a bit ridiculous, and they're taking a small quote and going a long way with it. If you look at some of the film from OTAs and some of the things they've said, it seems like Joe Flacco and Drew Lock get along quite well. It seems like they're having a solid relationship, working relationship in the program. And there's even video of Joe Flacco appearing to help Drew Lock with footwork at practice. It's not like they're not working well together. And I will also admit, again, it is not Joe Flacco's job to coach Drew Lock, to coach the young guy. It's actually Drew Lock's job to ask questions and figure out how to extract knowledge out of the veteran quarterback, Joe Flacco. And again, I want to repeat it. You got to understand this. Joe Flacco's on a new team. He's got a lot on his plate. He's learning a new system. He's figuring things out. I just think, he's trying to get ready for week one. I think all the criticism of Joe Flacco is very, very silly. However, and you knew this was coming, I would think, I do want to offer another perspective on this topic. Kurt Warner is a former NFL quarterback. He won a Super Bowl with the Rams. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He at one point was the older mentor to Eli Manning, a young Eli Manning with the New York Giants. He now, by the way, does work at the NFL Network. He's a fantastic analyst. Kurt Warner said this on Twitter. He tweeted this. He said, I don't understand all the quarterbacks saying that their job isn't to be a mentor to young quarterbacks coming into the organization. He continues, he says, in what part of life, family, business, sports, etc., do you enter where you say, I'm not here to do everything I am capable of to make us better, including helping the next generation? That is what the message Kurt Warner sent out. And I want to follow up to it. I heard a coach once say this to me. He said, it's your right to compete. It's your right to fight for your job. However, I love this. It's your legacy to train the next generation. Really cool. Really, really insightful stuff from a coach. Now, with that perspective in mind, though, I do not think that Joe Flacco had bad intentions. I think, yeah, you want to do everything you can to help your organization win games. But I don't think Joe Flacco had bad intentions when he said, I'm not here to help Drew Lock. I just think he sent a weak message. He could have sent out a better message to everybody else. It could have been better. Because, I think that the way you treat people matters. Every little thing you do, the way you treat a waiter, a barista at a coffee shop, your coach, a professor, the gas station attendant pumping your gas if you're in one of those states. It's like a resume. Every little thing you do is like a resume you're building. And I really, truly believe people skills matter. And the messages you send out to other people are really, really important. It's a reflection of who you are as a person. You got to understand, I play quarterback in college. This fall, it's a weird situation. I will be a 22-year-old sophomore. I have 3 years left of football. It's a very unique situation. I'm old. This is my fourth college. I've been in school a long time, though, by the way. But I have 3 years of eligibility for football. I'm going to use them all. And, I took 4 years off. It's weird. But at my college right now, we have an open quarterback competition. I'm in the mix. I'm trying to win the job. I'm trying to become the starting quarterback. But in my opinion, in a competition, there's a right way to do things. I think doing it the right way matters. Doing it a way you can look back on later and be proud of. It's very important. I try very hard to be an unselfish competitor. Yes, I want to win the starting job. Yes, I want to be the man. But I can still do it in a manner and be kind to the people around me as I fight for that job. Being kind, doing it the right way. There's a stronger message that Joe Flacco could have sent out. He could have put something better out to the world, and he would have gained, I think, a lot of respect if he'd done that. Again, I don't think Joe Flacco had bad intentions here, but an okay message could have been a really great statement to his team, if he'd said something along the lines of this. Here's my situation, and my take on the situation. When a young freshman quarterback comes to my college, I want to help them. I will never forget when I was a young freshman, I felt completely overwhelmed. I couldn't find my classes. I was lost. Everything was harder. Things were faster. Classes were more difficult. I felt totally overwhelmed when I was a freshman. And I wish I'd had someone who was kind to me to really help me get my bearings and kind of guide the way and give me a good example. And even if a freshman comes to my college and is super, super talented, you can still be nice to the guy. You can still be helpful as a human. I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to be prepared. And if he's good enough to beat me out, dang, we're going to win a lot of games, right? I'm going to be really prepared. If he beats me, he's got to be really good. But man, I don't, I look at this situation and I think that's the message Joe Flacco should have sent out. If he needs help buying a house, I'm there for him. If he has questions, I'm happy to help him. He could have said, I remember when I was a rookie quarterback. I remember how chaotic it was. I am happy to help him if he asks for it. That's the message he should have put out. Because he had an opportunity to really show how secure he was in his job. Because, by the way, you may not know, there is no chance Drew Lock is going to be the week 1 starter of the Denver Broncos. Drew Lock is not a threat immediately to Joe Flacco's job in that franchise. Joe Flacco's the cemented starter. I watched the film. Drew Lock's not ready. He should not be threatened by this young quarterback. And I really think he had a chance to send a great message, securing himself, saying, I'm happy to help the guy. And he didn't. He sent out a weak message instead. But I'm seeing the media crush Joe Flacco. At least I did previously. That was overblown. We just need to acknowledge Joe Flacco sent out a weaker message than he could have. He could have done much better. He didn't. I think that's a reflection of who he is a little bit, but I wouldn't be too hard on the guy. And this entire story, the way the media covered the Joe Flacco quote about Drew Lock was totally ridiculous. People had hot takes and rushed to judgment, and it's like, look deeper into the situation. I do not believe Drew Lock and Joe Flacco have a bad relationship. I think they get along quite well, and I think this story is very much overblown. You just got to recognize, Joe Flacco said this. He could have sent another message and a better message, which would have, I think, strengthened his place in the Denver Broncos locker room. I just want to say thank you so very much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. My name is Zach Schaumler. This is my podcast, Strong Opinion Sports, and it is my favorite thing in the entire world. I love it. In fact, my dream is to someday do Strong Opinion Sports as my full-time job. If you believe in me, if you believe in that dream, please help me grow by telling your friends about the show. Share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter. Maybe you screenshot it, maybe you put it on Instagram. It does me a huge help if you can tell your friends about Strong Opinion Sports. Another way you can help me if you want, no pressure, I have a PayPal, paypal.me patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. I also have a Patreon account, patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. It does me a huge help if you want to. Really, if you have no money to give, no problem, please. The number one thing, if you want to help Strong Opinion Sports, the number one thing you can do is help me grow by telling your friends about this podcast.